when I first met Don, um, I I had put an ad in the San Francisco Chronicle for an engineer to help make an instrument, this thing that I had imagined, and the world was it was 1963, I think, and the world was going into la la land with drugs, but it wasn't above board yet, so people didn't realize it. And the early engineer, there was one in particular who came and he was really out of it. I mean, just completely out of it. So this other guy comes and he introduces himself as Don Buchla, and he was an engineer. And so I just assumed he was coming because of the ad in the paper. So I immediately went into my thing, and he said, when we got done, he said, I can do that. And next day he came back. It's not even important to say what it was. It was a way, just an idea of what an individual might be able to do. It was a photocell and a circular disc that you could draw on or do whatever you want, put holes in it. And then, so he brought it the next day or 2 days, he brought the whole thing on, and it worked. And he said, but this isn't the way to do it. And he explained the whole thing. And as time went on and things changed, it turned out that he had not come up because of the ad. He came up to borrow a tape recorder, never got around. He may have borrowed it, but not for me. So we got into this thing, and what we were building was this object, designing was this object that was, for the metaphor I had was, the composer in the future would be, there would be a kind of composer in the future. It would be like a painter who could work directly in the studio and make things that just sitting in the studio and hearing it all, and then eventually going off with a duplication of it onto vinyl. And that it would be like a painter who paints and the painting ends up on the wall. And the idea really struck me as, I was very excited about the idea because records, even in those days, were pretty cheap compared to buying a painting. So you could duplicate it, and I'd never have to go on the stage again, which I hated doing. And people would just buy my work if they liked it, not if they didn't. So we were making this machine, and it had to have, and I was using the metaphor, and we had to have all these requirements in it that began to build and so forth. But we had no money, so we couldn't actually make anything. So everything was just on paper for at least a year. I asked him at one point when we thought we were getting close to thing, I said, how much do you need to make this? And he said, he never added or subtracted it. He just looked up in the sky and he would just look down and give you an answer. I didn't know if it was a guess or whether it was real, but he said he needed $500. So, well, that was 1960. By then it was probably end of 1963. And we couldn't raise $500. It took almost a year and a half. And I finally got the money. And we actually got more than 500. But he got, I don't know what it was it cost, but and so he finished it, and we heard it for the first time. We brought it in, and we looked at it, and it said San Francisco Tape Music Center Incorporated on every module. And we incorporated at the tape center because this woman said she would donate money if we became nonprofit. So we spent $150 incorporating, called it the San Francisco Tape Music Center Incorporated, and she sent a check for $25. So, but we were an incorporation. I never thought about, incorporated, that meant CBS or Toys R Us or something. And so I was really upset about that. He said, I think he thought we were in business together, but that wasn't it. That was just the machine that we designed that was going to be one of them, and I was going to work with it and try to make things with it that I thought would, make this model for the composer as a studio artist. And he made, because they were silk screened or printed, there was enough for several. And Latimer Usachevsky had been watching as we went. He came out from New York on a regular basis to see what we were doing. He was very excited. So he got one set of modules for Columbia and one for Princeton. And I don't know how many there were at the beginning, but there were a number of people who wanted something at the beginning. And but Vladimir took the random bullet source and hid it in the closet. He didn't want his students to use a random voltage source. But so it became, the next batch of stuff that he made became Buchla and Associates, and that's where the company actually starts. So this original one, the San Francisco Tape Music Center, was really that is the history for me. I mean, it was the real beginning, and it's nice that it is called the San Francisco Tape Music Center, because it does it say incorporated?
No.
No, good. So so it's sort of special. I mean, I'm 86 years old at this point, so I was not even 30. I was 26 or 27. I had imagined that what I was going to be working on would be useful for people 100 years from then, to, that they would have had so much experience with stuff that at that point they could look at a different way to approach it than what was going to be approached in the commercial world, and that would it would empower people in a different way than a traditional musical instrument would empower them. And so I was delighted. I mean, it took a long time, but not the 100 years. So let's put it this way. I can't describe an emotion, but I can say, like, it feels this way or that way, but it's very gratifying. It's sort of calming to me to realize that I've spent a life doing something that matters to somebody. Some aspect of it matters to somebody.